Well, we say it is a Broncos show, and it is right away in part one of the Week 7 preview here on the Audible. Cecil, Lammey, Sigmund, Bloom. Denver against New Orleans. New Orleans can't tackle. Denver doesn't have an offense, but it could be a nice day for Javonte Williams. And by nice, I mean like 60 yards. It could be a nice day for Audric Estime. Let's give him 60 yards, right? As
Right.
Sean Payton this week has talked nonstop. He's talked 3 times about Estime. So either Estime is going to get a larger workload or Sean Payton's just blah, 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 blah. Of course, Payton all up in his feelings because he goes back to New Orleans. Drew Brees going into the Ring of Honor or whatever they call it. So, yeah, we'll see if Denver's offense can do anything because if they can't this week, Bloom, it's even more problemous.
Yeah. See, even by the low standards of Thursday night football, this feels like a bad game. This
Oh,
feels
yeah.
like a game. It's going to be a stalemate and probably decided by mistakes. So not exactly a fantasy bonanza, the Sean Payton Bowl. And like you said, Javonte Williams, a what the heck flex, maybe his last stand as the starter as Audric Estime is coming on. Bo Nix is a quarterback too, super flex, or if you have to go to the waiver wire to replace Caleb Williams or Dak Prescott, then Bo Nix could be interesting here. You imagine he's going to get some yards with his legs, and this is not a New Orleans defense that we're afraid of right now. New Orleans riddled by injuries. Cortland Sutton can still play. Maybe he could get traded somewhere during this wide receiver merry-go-round, Cease. You mentioned Devon Valley and how he's coming on, at least as a deep dynasty play. Troy Franklin, we got to have something to watch in this game. It's not going to be good offense. For the Saints, it's not going to be good defense. It's rough for the Saints to have this showcase game on a Thursday night, and they got about like 2/3 of their team, but at least they may have Taysom Hill.
Yeah, maybe Taysom Hill comes back and does everything with Juwan Johnson and Foster Moreau because it's going to be a tight end show. Even Bub Means, who should play, but he's even a little bit banged up. No Chris Olave, most likely, as we record this Wednesday
Right.
morning. It is Wednesday. God, I hope it's Wednesday. They don't have Rashid Shaheed. So,
Right.
and Spencer Rattler, who, and listen, Clint Kubiak did a good job of, making sure that he had really super simple reads. He reads half the field. He could have had 4 picks against the Buccaneers. He only had 2, but you have a rookie quarterback with no weapons, and Alvin Kamara is banged up. Good luck.
Right. Right. Cease, the urban legend in New Orleans is all these players aren't actually hurt. They just don't want to play for Dennis Allen anymore. And I don't. Sorry, you were drinking your coffee when I said that, and I don't think that's true. But it just shows you what the atmosphere is around this team right now. Spencer Rattler's interesting for our deep dynasty, 2-quarterback superflex dynasty leagues because what he did that Derek Carr doesn't do is create outside of structure. And if you have that, you can't really teach a quarterback to do that, but you can teach a quarterback to play within structure. So that's interesting. Get to watch him. Like you said, Bub Means is probably going to be the number 1 receiver here. What the heck flex? No Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed. And this could be like a Michael Pittman situation. Maybe he rallies and plays, but my understanding is they're examining a knee injury that he suffered last week, not a continuing issue. And maybe he's going to end up on injured reserve. Alvin Kamara is in your lineup, but you just want him to get through the game healthy. Taysom Hill is the interesting player here as a tight end play. And also this offense is just better, significantly better when Taysom Hill plays. Now, is that going to count when there's no Derek Carr and there's no Chris Olave and there's no Rashid Shaheed? Maybe not, but maybe Taysom Hill and rough year at tight end could help you out here. Also, Kendre Miller should be active for this game. Maybe get some touches. Maybe see what we can get from the 3rd rounder last year. But yeah, let's just move on. Oh, wait. No, we can another NFL schedule makers not exactly doing great with the island games early on this week.
Island boy. London. Oh my God. Patriots versus Jacksonville. Oh my God. All right. Well, Drake May can sling it, right?
Right.
Drake May will play some hero ball. We know brawl, hero brawl in the UK, in London. And let's talk about that, like, and who he preferred to go to, right? In terms of, was a lot of Pop Douglas, Demario Douglas,
Right.
7-Eleven there making it happen. And then, of course, the tight ends, his security blanket. So, Another data point, and it should be a good game for Drake May because Jacksonville's given up.
Right, right. See, I think over there they call it a row. A row. We'll have a row after this game. Um, Well, again, you're going to watch that game on Thursday night. Watch some Bo Nix, watch some Spencer Rattler. Get familiar with these rookie quarterbacks' games, and you can do that with Drake May. And Drake May, again, bye week fill-in, sure, because Jacksonville's defense, we saw Joe Flacco look like Joe Flacco from 10 years ago against them, and then Joe Flacco looked like Joe Flacco of right now against Tennessee last week. So maybe Drake May doesn't have to play hero ball for the whole game. Now, how much of Drake May's production last week was because the Texans had really buried the Patriots? We'll see, but we're also going to see Demario Douglas, as you said, in our lineups, in PPR leagues especially. That's your number one target. We're going to watch Henry. Kayshon Boutte alert. Kayshon Boutte sighting last week. We're going to watch to see not Jalen Polk, at least not yet. Is Ramondre Stevenson going to be back? If he is, then he and Antonio Gibson both become what the heck flexes. If he's not, Antonio Gibson, maybe a running back to play, because as you said, Jacksonville's rolling over. And what we're wondering, Cease, is when the plane gets back to Jacksonville, is Doug Peterson going to be on it?
Yes. How many players are going to be dealt? As they were the first team to open up these trade floods, Bloom, with
Mm-hmm.
I always call him Roy Robinson. Roy Rogers. They traded Roy
Yeah.
Rogers. I can't believe it. But anyway, so Jacksonville side, it's like, okay, a last stand for a Christian Kirk. You mentioned the
Mm-hmm.
wide receiver desperateness out there, right? Maybe Christian Kirk gets dealt. I'm not sure. Evan Ingram shows up, has 100 yards with a hamstring, and then he has his big game. And then, speaking of hamstrings, Travis Etienne with a hamstring. So maybe more Tank Bigsby and Dearness Johnson there. And maybe some like play for the coach. I don't get that vibe though
No.
from the Jags.
No, and the coach was saying, well, we coaches can't do everything 2 weeks ago. So the coaches aren't playing for the players or coaching for the players, however that would work. Trevor Lawrence, again, bye week fill in here. New England's defense just so shorthanded. So Lawrence, too, and he has his full complement of weapons now. You're going to play Evan Ingram. You're probably going to play Brian Thomas Jr. He got his hands on what could have been touchdowns a couple of times last week. We saw with that 85-yard touchdown a few weeks ago, it only takes one play for him to make your week. Christian Kirk, a little bit shakier. This would be an interesting one, as Cease mentioned. So if we hear that Kirk is inactive for an unexplained reason, maybe it's because they don't want him to get hurt to preserve his trade value. That would, again, increase the value of Thomas or even Gabe Davis. Don't think they're going to be able to trade Gabe Davis with that contract, the 2 garbage time touchdowns last week. Backfield, don't think we're going to see Travis Etienne with the hamstring injury. Dearness Johnson actually in a lot more than Tank Bigsby. Isn't this just how fantasy football goes? Oh, well, Tank Bigsby looks great. If Travis Etienne goes down, jackpot. If Travis Etienne goes down, Dearness Johnson's going to be on the field more than him. What? So they're both what the heck flexes. Bigsby with the big playability, Dearness Johnson in on passing downs. And yeah, this is a game that will decide part of the top 5 of the NFL draft. Tune in Sunday morning.
It'll decide where Travis Hunter's not going to go play.
Shedeur Sanders is not going to go play.
I think both of those could do the Eli. Like, and we're just not going to go. We're not going to play for Jacksonville. Although they did get a new stadium, like renovations or something. I
They
saw
have a
Shad Khan.
pool.
They just got approved.
Watch the game from. Yeah,
they just got approved for
Oh, wow.
more like upgrades, or maybe it's a new stadium. I'm not sure in Jacksonville. So it's
Yeah.
like you're staying. I mean, you're going to play half your games over there, but like you're staying.
Yeah.
I don't know. Seahawks and Falcons up next. That's more interesting than the actual game.
Mhm.
Seattle side, of course, we know the normal assets to go to. And against Atlanta, Seattle may have to put their foot on the gas as they travel across the country to go to beautiful Atlanta.
Yeah, this is where we're seeing Seattle's defense. We can look at the schedule now and say, was Seattle's defense good? They looked good the first few weeks. It was because of their competition. It was because they were playing New England, who took them to overtime. It was because they were playing Denver. Okay, now they're playing real offenses. They're getting run out of the building. But hey, that means sometimes you get 45, 50 pass attempts from Geno Smith. Again, bye week fill in, quarterback 2 super flex upside. And then you look at the wide receivers. DK Metcalf's going to be in your lineup. You know he's a boom bust play. He's going to see some AJ Terrell. Maybe it's a little more Jackson Smith and Jigba. Maybe it's a little more Tyler Lockett. They're both wide receiver 3 flexes. Maybe Lockett has a higher floor. Smith and Jigba has a higher ceiling. Kenneth Walker has a high floor when he's catching all these dump off passes. So one thing that's happening here is Seattle's having to abandon the run, and they're not running efficiently anyway. But Kenneth Walker's not leaving the field, and he's getting a lot of short passes as this team's in catch-up mode, as they should be this week. Again, they're not really much of a match for this Atlanta offense. Noah Fant, he's had 2 games with 6 catches. I don't know if he'll have 6 catches this week, but if you have to replace a Dallas Goedert, you got to replace a Cole Kmet, Jake Ferguson. If he's out there, he could come through for you. And we know for sure this Atlanta offense is ready to come through.
Yes, Atlanta offense ready to explode now with more Bijan Robinson. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks the heavens, or thanks Zach Robinson. Thank Bijan Robinson for getting it done there with Kirk Cousins and company. So we've seen them explode. We've seen them use their assets the way they should. And at home against Seattle, Bloom, well, should be a nice day again.
Yeah, technically it was more Tyler Algier than Bijan Robinson, but the offense has a much bigger pie. And first in line for touchdowns, Bijan Robinson. Second in line for touchdowns, Bijan Robinson. Then Tyler Algier got the touchdown, putting the game away. So Bijan Robinson, if this passing pie, if this game creates 35, 40 points for Atlanta, as it probably should, Bijan Robinson's going to be a great play. Tyler Algier, at least a what the heck flex. Again, in these games that we think Atlanta's going to control the game script, you can see he's the finisher, the punisher. Kirk Cousins, a very high floor in this one. Used to hope that Geno Smith can keep up with him and force him to keep throwing in the second half, unlike last week whenever they ran away eventually from Carolina. And then in the passing game, Drake London has established himself. Yes, he's going to be worth that second round pick. Darnell Mooney, a boom bust play, but we see he's the deep threat who can come through. And Kyle Pitts is also actually a downfield threat. That's enough. Hey, if he only catches 3 passes, but one's for 40 or 45 yards in 2024 at tight end, that is enough. Everything is coming together, and this is another reminder, both sides of this game. First 2-3 weeks of the season, things change. You know, Kirk Cousins can't move. This offense isn't going to fulfill any of his expectations. Wrong. Seattle has a good defense. Seattle's going to establish the run. Wrong. Let's see what we can unlearn in the next game.
You just went Charlie Murphy on it.
Yeah.
Wrong. Wrong.
Habitual line stepper.
Yes, that's right. And Tyler Algier as the closer just makes so much sense.
Yeah.
He's a damn good running back,
He's
everybody. Mm-hmm. Titans and Bills is next up here on the Audible, and the Bills side is more interesting. So let's slug through the Titan side. Sorry, Tennessee fans. We got a lot of really good Tennessee fans out there that we know, but Will Levis is your quarterback, so maybe they should start trading DeAndre Hopkins or Calvin Ridley's upset. So there you go.
Yes, he's Mason Rudolph watches on. It's Wednesday morning when we're recording this, so things could change. But as of right now, I guess it's going to be Will Levis. Tyjae Spears hurt again, so it's a Tony Pollard game. See a little Julius Chestnut in there as we're getting closer to the holiday season. DeAndre Hopkins has a high floor, maybe not as high of a ceiling as Calvin Ridley. And see, so I was going to say, usually with someone like Calvin Ridley this week, we'd say the squeaky wheel gets the oil, right? But what if the mechanic broke the oil can and the oil's all over the floor and there's no oil to put on the squeaky wheel because the offense is broken? It's broken with Will Levis. It's getting worse, not getting better. And Buffalo's defense is always a tough out, even with injuries. So, yeah, this is not going to be a great day for Tennessee. If Mason Rudolph doesn't end up starting this game, I think we'll probably see him pretty soon.
Yeah, Buffalo side now with more Amari Cooper. Now that one is exciting. The Adams stuff will get all the talk, and we'll get that in part 2, along with the Russell Wilson thing. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, Steelers fans. But Coop can still cut a rug. Can still get open. How's this impact, Khalil Shakir or whatever? It's like, yeah, they got a damn fine receiver in Amari Cooper for a good price. So Buffalo, good job, man.
Yeah, this is a much more impactful trade in the AFC playoff picture in team fates than Devontae Adams to the Jets.
The Jets are 2-4.
Yeah, and I mean, how does it really change? The problem with the Jets was not the offense; it was not the passing game. Amari Cooper is at least a wide receiver 3 flex. Now, this is still an everyone's going to eat, everyone's going to get a turn kind of offense, but so many things should work better with an actual legitimate outside receiver. And just real quick, Cease, because I see a lot of people say, well, Mari Cooper's leading the league in drops, and hey, how's that going to help the Bills? Would you care if Deshaun Watson was your quarterback?
No.
Would you be concentrating? We know Amari Cooper's a good player, and what an invigorating development for him. This is the closest he's ever been to a Super Bowl. He's going away from Deshaun Watson and going to a team now that just with that one trade, and this is maybe the counterbalance. They trade down so that Kansas City gets Xavier Worthy. Xavier Worthy not as impactful as we thought. And a lot of people had Amari Cooper going to Kansas City with all their problems at wide receiver, but it's Buffalo who swoops in and gets that move. Just go right down Lake Erie there. So it does make Khalil Shakir a little less likely to be in your lineup. Could open up things for him, though. Dalton Kincaid still in your lineup. Hope for the best, but it's a bit of a bummer. The other story here is going to be James Cook. Surprise scratch, probably turf toe. It only gets better with rest. Ray Davis looked pretty good. So if you have Ray Davis, you hope you can use him again. If James Cook is playing, you're not going to use him again, but don't be surprised if Ray Davis turns this into a committee. I don't want to go as far as to say that James Cook's going to get Wally pipped, but I think after what Ray Davis added to that offense, then how can you just put him back into getting to only 2 or 3 touches a game? And if James Cook has turf toe, you're probably not going to want to overwork him anyway. The last thing I want to say on this note is go and look up Ray Davis's story, the will, the belief in self, the circumstances that he overcame in a league with a lot of hard luck stories, in a league with a lot of stories where unlikely doesn't even begin to describe it. Ray Davis's is one of the best.
Yeah, one of the best out there. 4 games down, 3 games to go. Part 1, week 7 audible. Cecil Lammey, Sigmund Bloom, and it's Bengals and Browns. I mean, one team's trending down and the other team's coasting down, sauntering down. We'll start Cincinnati side, and I have no idea what the hell's
Right.
going on with that team because, it doesn't look like you're going anywhere this year, Cincinnati.
Maybe. I, what's interesting here, Cease, is we can look at the AFC. Buffalo's going to the playoffs. I don't want to bloom anybody, okay? But Buffalo's going to the playoffs, but they're a playoff team. Houston's a playoff team. Baltimore's a playoff team. Kansas City's a playoff team. Who else is a playoff team? 3 more teams have to go to the playoffs. Miami, the Jets, Indianapolis, Pittsburgh, the Chargers. Someone's got to go to the playoffs. Some of those teams are going to make the playoffs. So maybe the Bengals, and they did use up everything and didn't have a W to show for it to beat the Chiefs in Kansas City. But that still shows them that when they meet the Chiefs in the playoffs, if they can somehow get there this year, they can still play the Chiefs straight up. So Cincinnati, just take care of the games you're supposed to win. Doesn't have to be pretty. It was ugly against the Giants, but they did win. So get another win. But Joe Burrow, this is a pass funnel. Browns defense, very tough run defense, easy to pass on them. So Burrow to Higgins, Burrow to Chase, it's coming. And we'll see about Zach Moss, not 100%. So the split going a little more in Chase Brown's favor. Chase Brown more of a running back 2 flex. Now, if we see Zach Moss get a full practice in, maybe we get closer to 50-50 committee here, but we will see Joe Burrow lead this team back from adversity. You just start stacking wins in the NFL, even wins against bad teams in this year's AFC, you will find yourself in the playoff picture.
Poor Nick Chubb.
Oh, yeah.
No Amari Cooper, we just talked about it, and it's the Browns, everybody. We don't know yet if Nick Chubb's going to play, but poor Nick Chubb. We love him so.
Yeah, see, this reminds me. Do you remember how bad some of those Frank Gore teams, those Frank Gore 49ers teams were? And
Yeah.
he still was giving everything, every week, every touch, every play. That's what you're going to get out of Nick Chubb. So if he's active for this one, I'm going to err on the side of putting him in my lineup because he's going to be. See, there's an alternate universe out there where Cecil Lammey is a world famous rodeo rider, right? And Nick Chubb is, what do they call it? The shoot. He's the bull in the shoot right now,
Yes,
right?
they call it the shoot. Yes.
He's in the shoot. And I mean, I don't want to be riding Nick Chubb when he comes out of the chute, but I want that to benefit my fantasy team. So maybe, Deshaun Watson only throws the ball 15 times in this game. The Bengals defense is not good. So if you want a disappointing game script for the Bengals, it's that Nick Chubb is ready. And what have we seen this year, by the way? A lot of these players, Joe Mixon, Christian Watson, teams are doing a better job of knowing that a player's ready to come back from an injury and they can use them fully. They don't have to ease them back in. Okay. So maybe because we've seen now Nick Chubb, remember back in August, he was testing that knee. They were filming it. Jimmy Haslam was watching it. So they were pretty happy with where he was 2 months ago. So maybe they really did the right thing and they waited and they said, well, we're not going to put you on the field until we know we can give you 25 carries and you can go all out with no worries of any kind of setbacks. If that's the case, this could be a crowning game for Nick Chubb. Otherwise, it's Deshaun Watson to Jerry Jeudy, Elijah Moore, like the disappointments, Deshaun and the disappointments. Is that going to be the new hit record coming from that band? David Njoku. That's the guy probably who's going to benefit the most for fantasy from this Amari Cooper trade. And for Cleveland, it's just another week of waiting for another quarterback, but maybe Nick Chubb can give you something to feel good about.
Super Bowl preview up next with Texans and Packers. And on the Texans side, more Joe Mixon, please. And you got something for Cam Akers. Good job. And then, of course, Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs. You're not playing the Patriots this week. So maybe you have to live a little bit more through the air. Maybe Dalton Schultz actually does something this week.
Yeah.
Let's discuss.
Yeah, this is a game, like you said, potential Super Bowl preview, or just these two young quarterbacks on the rise, two teams that have been put together pretty well. So this is a really fun matchup. Joe Mixon has found the fountain of youth, or maybe he's just running under center with the quarterback under center. Josh Norris was all over this over underdog. He's awesome. His analysis is awesome, and you can picture in your mind's eye Joe Mixon, the Bengal, is taking a snap out of shotgun, and he's getting a run from a standstill. Joe Mixon, the Texan, has a head of steam as CJ Stroud is taking the snap under center, and it's all the difference. So, congratulations to the Texans for scouting that and knowing that they could get him for nothing. And yes, they paid him before he played, but he is earning that money. He's earning for your fantasy team wins. And you're going to see CJ Stroud to Tank Dell. Remember, Tank Dell drew pass interference in the red zone and in the ed zone last week, so it could be a big game for him. And of course, Stephon Diggs. And like you said, maybe a desperation play, Dalton Schultz. We may need a tight end here, but this is a game that fantasy, yeah, it's kind of interesting. The game itself, that's where the real action is.
Yeah, it's monumental. So let's get to the Packers side and what to expect from Jordan Love and Josh Jacobs. We know Dontavian Wicks avoided a serious injury, but he's considered week to week with the shoulder. So Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, Jaden Reed, you're up. And what does Tucker Kraft do?
Yeah, and maybe if it's a more competitive game, Tucker Kraft is still a fine tight end play because of what he does after the catch, because he has trust from Jordan Love. But Ben Sims was pretty good as the number 2 tight end. Jaden Reed's in your lineup as a wide receiver 1. Christian Watson's in your lineup as a boom bust wide receiver 3 flex. And Romeo Dobbs is more of a what the heck flex, but you like the trust that Jordan Love showed him. And let's get it on Mills Lane style. And Josh Jacobs is there, of course. He's in your lineup. We're still waiting for a ceiling game from him. But there's so many interesting talents on both sides of the ball here. Will Anderson, Rashawn Gary, Danielle Hunter, Xavier McKinney. So many great players on defense. So many great players on offense. So many ways this game could go. And it's one of those ones where well, hey, I guess it's kind of good that Cincinnati, Cleveland, some of the other games are stinkers because I want to watch this one.
Yeah, it looks like the Packers picked up Let's Go Brandon McManus, right? The old
Mhm.
Bronco there. So
Mhm.
away we go. Is Tua gonna play? Is Tua gonna? I mean,
This
it's our
year, that's what Mike McDaniel tells us. He'll play this year.
okay. What about this week? I mean, all right. Let's shelve that
Yeah.
conversation until we know more. But it is Miami. It is the Colts, and with the Dolphins, it is like they're in limbo. They're just waiting for Tua. And there's rumblings about how Deion Sanders would love Shador to go there. Like, all right, yeah, I mean, throwing a Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle would be cool, but let's talk about the human side of things first. Like, I just hope Tua's okay. Football or no football, it doesn't matter. And with the Dolphins, again, Bloom, they're just kind of waiting
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, and as we're laying out with the AFC side, the Dolphins with Tua, potential playoff team.
Sure.
have been a playoff team. Without Tua, one of the worst teams in the AFC side. Well, maybe not one of the worst because there's some bad teams, but we're going to see Tyler Huntley again this week. Next week is when we can start the clock maybe on Tua returning. Tyler Huntley can do enough for Tyreek Hill to be in your lineup, enough for Jalen Waddle to be a what the heck flex, enough for Johnny Smith to be a desperation play at tight end. The big question here is the running game, which did come alive after Devin Achane went out with a concussion. During the bye week, we get scant injury information. Achane had a concussion. You hope that genuinely all of his symptoms have cleared and he's ready to play and he's in your lineup as a running back too with this running game revived. And then Raheem Mostert more of what the heck flex. Jalen Wright, a desperation play, but with that speed, does this turn into a three-headed committee? If there's no Achane, Mostert more of a running back two flex, Wright more of a super flex. I'm sorry, a what the heck flex. And you would expect that Miami is going to try to run the ball 35 or 40 times. Add in the Tyler Huntley rush attempts, maybe 45 times in this game. Whether they'll be able to will come down to how ready Anthony Richardson is to pilot this offense and unlock some of the capabilities that Joe Flacco did in the passing game.
Yeah. It's interesting. On the Colts side, looks like Anthony Richardson's going to play,
Yes.
barring any setbacks. We're recording Wednesday morning, but the reports are barring any setbacks, Richardson's in. All right. Well, what does that mean for the Colts, who get their quarterback back? And we'll see what he can do at home against the Dolphins.
It could mean really good things. Go back to the game that he left. Ow, my hip, my back. He was passing well. He was moving the ball well. Michael Pittman was making plays downfield. Ow, my back. So maybe he was turning a corner and it was overshadowed by another injury and also by a terrible decision for the Colts to call his number as a runner after he was already showing that he was hurt. But like you said, Cecil, he's going to start if he makes it through practices without incidents. And I think there's a lot of upside here against Miami. You don't expect him, and he hasn't actually been used a lot as a runner by design anyway, but you don't expect that. You do see that Shane Steichen's pass offense is potent, and it's going to be vertical. It's going to throw downfield, but it's also going to have Josh Downs as that Cooper Kupp style. He's going to get open in the short, intermediate range and allow this team to continue to move the sticks. So Downs is in your lineup. Pittman, a what the heck flex. Alec Pierce, it only takes one pass, a what the heck flex. As Adonai Mitchell, inconsistent. So he's not coming for Pierce's job anytime soon. The bigger question here that we have to watch than Richardson's health is Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor not really committing to playing this week, saying, sure, you can play me this week. Better have a good backup. So, hey, take your time. In Indianapolis, why not them as a playoff team? If you can beat Miami, if you can let Taylor heal, now this offense looks pretty fearsome, even though this defense, the Colts defense, is not. For fantasy, we kind of like that. I think that Tyler Goodson actually outplayed Trey Sermon last week. So again, we have so many of these running back situations: San Francisco, Jacksonville, Indianapolis. With these injuries, I don't really know who to play. They're what the heck flexes. I could say play the guy who's playing better. I could say play the guy who's going to get more opportunities. But I'm not sure Trey Sermon's going to get more opportunities than Tyler Goodson based on how they played last week. Of course, Jonathan Taylor could come back and take this question and make it moot. But all eyes will be on Anthony Richardson in this one.
Yeah, all eyes on the NFL. We have some more stories to get to in part 2. That's coming up on Thursday. Many thanks to everyone out there. So check us out on YouTube, all of our YouTube channels. We have 3 of them. So subscribe to them all, and we appreciate you for liking the video, commenting, sharing, subscribing, hitting the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. He is Sig. I am Cecil. We are The Audible. Follow Sigmund on X at Sigmund Bloom. Sounds so silly. Of course, Twitter sounded silly too, but anyway. Yeah. Now, the videos are somewhere here, so click on them to continue the goodness that is Football Guys, The Audible. Stay tuned and stay frosty.
Mecca Lecca High.